to another Parallel Barking. I'm Ariana Backer here with my co-host.
Larry Backer, woof woof.
Oh, bark, bark. My bad. It's just I'm so surprised, although I shouldn't be, by this topic that we're about to bring to your attention and futurism brought to our attention. Adobe was caught red-handed. We're going to jump right in. Selling AI generated images of the Israel Gaza conflict. And we're really used to misinformation coming from all sorts of different places, mostly random politicians, random people. I guess tech industry is going to be a new thing for us.
Yeah. But hold on a second. Adobe did not generate these artistic renditions
Well,
and riffs on.
hold up. We could say they didn't, but they definitely were the incentivizer.
Well, how'd they get on the Adobe websites for people to use?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, how'd they find their way to Adobe?
How did people find their way to
No,
Adobe?
these images, if they didn't create it,
This
so it
is
was
Adobe stock images.
right.
This is
But who uploaded them? If Adobe didn't generate them, then who generated them?
people, but Adobe is
Are you sure they were
incentivizing
people?
contributors.
Are you sure they're people?
Well, people have to train the AI.
Right.
I
But
don't
could you
think
have
we've gotten to the point where AI can train AI, although maybe we can.
all right, or you can use AI to generate AI images, which are then uploaded, so you don't actually need a person as a middle person to upload this stuff onto
Right, but
Adobe.
let's explain the situation first.
All right, sorry.
So, um, AI generated images from Adobe, the Adobe stock, let's say, contributors. Um, okay, so the company, Adobe, has added a new annual bonus scheme for Adobe stock contributors that actively incentivizes them to allow their work to be used to train the company's AI model. And that has something to do with their AI model, Firefly. And it's a very important part of their Photoshop tool. And that's what a lot of people use to submit the stock photos to Adobe Stock. And so those are what are being put up on online. And these images have been
Right, and then they can be
appearing
used, right?
and
And then they can be
used.
used by the
They're
subscriber.
not generated by Adobe itself, but they're technically being tagged as generated with AI. But people aren't going to look at that.
But what are they going to look at? They're going to look at the images, and the images look like photography.
Absolutely.
Right. They look like photography. And so the invitation, which is the deception, is to view them as a photographic image rather than an artistic rendering,
Yes, they
bringing
pass
in
as the
all
real
of the
thing.
prejudices or hopes and dreams of the artist. Right.
Yeah,
Which goes to why is this different than an artist's rendering of some aspect of the war? Because
because
when you see
these
the
are
artist.
trying to pass as
That's right. I was there with a camera and I snapped a button,
and
and
I
this
snapped.
image is right. This image is what I saw.
Right. This isn't artistry. This isn't a shot of, trying to show rendering of a reality in some way. I mean, if somebody
Well,
saw
it
this,
is trying to show reality is perceived by. These are
no,
images
now
in
you're
the
trying to
imaginary,
interpret it as an art piece, but it's not. It's not.
because, and this is a critical thing, right? Because it is meant to deceive people into believing that what you're seeing is a camera image, as opposed to what otherwise would be hanging up, well, it could be photography too, but would be hanging up as an imaginary rendering, the emotive interaction between the artist and the thing that the artist is trying to render, but may have absolutely nothing to do with an instant of lived reality anywhere on Earth, other than to show bombs blasting, children with my personal favorite, children with book bags and a little teddy bear in rubble, blah 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 blah, burnt buildings, and the quote unquote horrors of war. As a visual symbol, as opposed to the reality of the thing that it's supposed to represent.
Right. I mean, and as the article in Futurism mentions, it's actively undermining like the hard work that um the photojournalists would have had to do to get in there to actually take that photo. Um, it's dangerous to jump into the the front lines of war and take that kind of photo, but when you're
It's more dangerous. It's more dangerous than you make out. It's not merely the danger of being physically harmed. It's the danger of actually taking a picture of a reality that may not accord with the narrative realities that the people who let you in to take these
you're
pictures
ab
want to
that's so
see.
true. Exactly right. And then you have to survive that and then show it to the rest of the world.
Right. So what's the difference between this and, let's say, I need to have a narrative reality of a ton of people dead. And what I do is I invite a photographer in and I stage the deaths. Let's say I take a bunch of people, I put them in, and they're all alive. I put them all in shrouds. I put them in this huge room, and then I bring the photographer in and I say, look, a room full of shrouds. I'm not even lying. I'm telling strictly the truth. I have a room full of bodies, shrouded bodies, which is technically true because I'm not telling you whether the shrouded bodies are alive or dead. You are invited to misunderstand what I'm saying. And then you take the picture. The picture is real, right? As opposed to these AI generated pictures. The picture is real, but it is a picture of a staged reality that would have nothing to do with whatever reality it is that the picture is going to be generating. And my point here isn't that one is better than the other. It's to suggest that when you look at Adobe and Adobe's problem with these stock images, you're looking at a range of visual misrepresentations.
You would still call that I get what you're saying, but I still think you would still call that photo staged and it would still be a fake. It
It
wouldn't
would,
be
but it would
real.
be a different, but it would be a different kind of fake, because there the fakery was being done by the people who invited you to take a real picture, as opposed to here where you're sitting in some comfortable or uncomfortable office somewhere with your software, and then you use
Yeah,
software
they're
and AI
definitely
to.
degrees of separation.
Right, 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 right. But again, underlining all of this is the issue of deception. And deception, of course, is not done in a random way. Deception is done in the service of some narrative reality that you mean to use, like text, to manage the emotional range and then likely reactions of your targeted audience.
Yeah, it's deliberate deception for the purpose of earning money. It's like
Well, in this case, right. In this case,
and
it's earning money. If
and
it's if
and
it's
to
a bunch of
train,
shrouded bodies, it's because you want a particular story so that you can get people on the
right.
streets in Washington or London to act on the basis as if those shrouded bodies actually contain dead bodies instead of live bodies, right?
And if you
and then
want a
author them.
particular story, how dangerous is that? Like, what if the story isn't if it's a true story or not, it regardless of if it's true, it doesn't matter. You're using that story to train an AI model,
Oh
and
my
it's
God, that's right. And that's the most interesting part of it all, right? So you're training the model to embrace deception in a sense, because what you're doing is you're feeding it images that are themselves deceptive in one of a variety of different ways. And then that becomes the basis for being able to either augment the deception to make it easier or to metastasize it and be in ways that are ultimately beyond the control. So if I really want to change using strategically using narrative images, and I want to leverage that out, this is precisely what I would do. I would be developing a bunch of AI-assisted pictures, or even better, I would have staged pictures in sight so that it's only half not true. It's in the place. And then I would use that to develop the iterative capabilities of then augmenting these visual deceptions in the service of some narrative reality that you want to push out onto people that you want to manage.
so our new reality is going to be trying to figure out what is real and what is fake.
I disagree. I
Tell me why.
absolutely disagree. Um, the the problem now is not so much in our own individual journeys of the trustworthy engaging with the trustworthiness of an image. That tends to be a relatively small number of
I'm not
people,
thinking of
although
just images though. I'm thinking of, remember that one time that politician used those robocalls to speak to his constituents in different
not just
languages?
any politician. That was the mayor of New York who managed to blast out some statement or other via the telephone in perfect Mandarin and perfect every other language. Although the mayor could not speak a word of these things.
Right.
Right. So there's this whole cluster. But my point isn't that. My point is that while a certain segment of society will be hand wringing about, oh my God, fake, and we're doing the kind of discussion we've just had, I think the reality is most people are still willing to take an image at face value, not necessarily because they believe that the image is accurate, physically accurate, but because the image helps cement what they want to believe. And so what winds up happening is that these images are invested in the process of mass self-deception, which is wanted, which is deliberate and strategic. I want to believe, and therefore I will accept these images as an essence, a sense, a symbolic. I don't really care whether it's quote unquote physically accurate at the time it was taken, or whether it says what it is purported to say, the case of our shrouds, because I want to believe it. This cements that belief in a kind of abstracted physicality that then allows me to do what I want to do, which is to get permission to energize myself and vomit myself onto the streets or into letter
Yeesh.
writing campaigns
So
or
you're
whatever.
predicting just continued stratification and
Oh,
uh,
absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, I guess that
Um,
makes sense.
And even those who know or ought to know better will likely, in some instances, in some cases, succumb to the ultra temptation of translating physical reality, precise physical reality, into imaginaries of symbolic import with respect to which absolute accuracy of the image is secondary to the essence, right? They become artists. I'm painting you as three blocks that are purple, right? And you go, wait, that's not me in the mirror. And then the artist says, no, I painted the inner you. Well, that's what we're doing here. We're painting the inner you. And when you combine this with either a strategic sense of needing to manage the masses, or much more potent, this for this time that we live in is kind of quite interesting, where we've got an increasing number of people, including educated people, who are desperate for signs and signals or portents that confirm what they want to believe, no matter how detached their belief is from anything that would approach a rational analysis. Then this becomes very fertile ground, and that's what we're going to get. And there's very, very little that you can do to reduce this, that is, its flow, except, right, and this is where it gets really horrible. So we're now dealing in a Luciferian world.
Oh no.
What happens when Satan rules? Well, what's the only way of dealing with these images? It may well be that you're going to have to deal with even better counter images or counter imaginaries.
Well, right. Yeah. Oh, oof.
Right. So, and I
Woof.
wouldn't be surprised if one doesn't see that. Now, what'll happen is among the educated classes with just a modicum of moral, of some vestige of the old morality, what you may wind up seeing is these bleatings that will come out either in administrative regulation or in high horsey kind of speeches that will require some kind of notice. And that was in the Futurism article as well, some kind of notice that this is, and they'll use some magical words that will itself be likely subject to being misleading. That this is not a real image, that this is an enhanced, they'll use some word that most people won't understand. And so you'll have this kind of disclosure thing, and then everyone will feel good because they aren't actually being deceptive because they've disclosed, but actually they are.
But what,
And the disclosure will itself add to the deception.
and it will also be hilarious because actual images will be questioned for their realism.
Well, that's right. That's exactly right. And this brings us back. You know who's laughing now? Do you remember they made the movie? This may have been before you were born. They made the movie in which the American government bamboozled the people into believing that we actually landed on the moon. And
I
that we
don't
had the
know.
entire country believing that we had, when actually it was all stage managed within a warehouse somewhere. We're sort of moving in that direction where it doesn't really matter what is happening on the ground. We just need enough to be happening on the ground to feed what we really want, which are these, and I can't use images because that suggests some connection to reality, these imaginaries that then build on our symbolic and moral sense of the act, and therefore become like
No.
the supra-real manifestation of the act. So the war
We're
itself,
so in love with
well, yeah,
symbolism.
I know, we should have, and so you'll never read Ibsen again as long as
That's
you
true.
live.
I'm not
But
going to.
that's what we become. It's just in a world, but think about this, in a world that has become more and more virtual, where everything we do is kind of detached from us, right? Our reality may well be what some of us will call your selfie, your image of yourself in virtual space, rather than your physical self, and where the connection between your selfie, that is your virtual image, and yourself become increasingly detached. In that kind of world, it is possible to begin to privilege the virtual realities as hyper real, and then marginalize to some extent whatever reality is in physical space, or not marginalize it, but begin to interpret it as a function of these
You're
virtual realities
serving your
grounded in
virtual
belief.
self.
Right. Basically, we become, the holodeck becomes real, and
Oh no.
right, but we're moving in that direction, and you begin to see it with news. And news, of course, has moved in two directions. One, it had this like tiny moment when news was sort of factual and relatively neutral.
No, that never
It was this
happened.
this little tiny moment. To, on the one hand, news being commentary infused with facts is basically interpretive jobs. In a sense, you're doing the same thing that you're doing with these AI-assisted images, when news is really an interpretation of facts that is then offered to you as reporting,
Yeah.
you have in effect generated a symbolic set of images that feed on a belief that is the textual analog to these AI generated images of kids getting blown up or buildings getting blown up, or these hyper tanks. They look like they're on steroids going through this post-apocalyptic
With
scene.
amazing lighting, by the
The only
way.
thing
In
that is
every
missing,
photo
yes,
is amazing
it's
lighting.
amazingly lit. The only thing that's missing, and this is the one thing I regret, is that you do not see images of Tina Turner in Beyond Thunderdome in these images.
That is
That would make it
definitely,
really real.
you're
Bless
right.
you, Tina Turner, wherever
Or
you are. We
Mad
miss you.
Max. We're missing Mad Max.
No, no, but I have a soft spot in my heart for
I know,
Beyond
Tina,
Thunderdome. May she
you
rest
are
in
the
peace and find
woman.
happiness in whatever virtual universe or atoms and consciousness is now aligned.
She is there.
Right. But so that's what makes this interesting. It's most immediate, right, and most interesting in the Israel-Hamas conflict now, because that has tended to be an incredible laboratory in the ease with which it is possible to use belief-infused virtual imaginaries in the
Mm-hmm.
form of photorealistic images to energize hundreds of thousands of people to do your work for you, engage
Oh,
in sub levels of near
absolutely.
violence. These are war fronts. And certainly if you're looking at from fourth or fifth or sixth generation warfare, these are additional war fronts that are meant to hijack democratic processes by using the same tactics that the Marxists and
Yes, this is taking
the
over the
fascists,
conversation. You're
the
absolutely
Marxists
right.
and the Free Corps used in Germany in 1920. It's the same
Mm-hmm.
thing. So you get these bodies on the streets, you manage them through these imaginaries, you merely feed the beliefs that they already have because you've already done that job, and then you open up these multiple fronts, which then are meant to use the strengths, to treat the strengths, for example, of liberal democracy as a weak point into which you can go in and then manage or manipulate or direct or
Well,
curate
manage is a
whatever it is you
great
want.
word. I mean, that's kind of the word I was thinking about. I mean, through your whole tirade, is
Right,
this is a tool of management. I mean,
right.
really.
It's not a tirade, it's a lament. Because, I mean, I really don't view this, even though I sound
No,
sort of
you're right.
excited.
You're right. I'm making
I
fun of
lament
you.
this whole turn, but it seems to be where we are. And no, right, because where everyone then turns is to, and I'll ask you, what can we do about this?
Nothing.
Very good. And that's my sense. Well, nothing in the sense of if what you want to do is suppress it,
Yeah.
nothing you can do will actually do
Yeah,
it.
there's
But
nothing we can do to suppress it. There
but then
there are things that we can do to quote manage it.
to, well, and what an awful state to be in a sense, but that seems to be our portion in the third decade of the 21st century, is
Yes.
managing this. But for those of us who are actually concerned about this, what it also then suggests is that the relationship between an observer and an image has now become infinitely more complicated, because the technologies of AI generated stuff both can create this fairly quickly and can make it so quote unquote real. It's actually hyper real, right? That you cannot tell the differences. And now you become even more leery about being
Yes.
managed
I
into,
understand why younger generations are so stressed out and, pine for the years before because things
oh, you
in a
mean
lot of
when,
ways were so much easier. When I was looking at a photo, I didn't have to worry about anything.
right? But then you started worrying about it with Photoshop and it was still clunky,
It's
but,
still, but
and that got better. But
yeah.
now it's well, the technologies have gotten good enough so that we really have shifted emphasis from, oh, I'm going to start with the presumption of reality and then evaluate the imaginary, the
Yes.
image
You have to
in that
presume.
it's not been reversed.
Yeah,
Right?
you
The
presume that it's
question now
fake.
is is it believable as opposed to is it real? And does it
Ugh.
feed into my belief? And if so, can I then be energized by it? Because even though it's not real, it's symbolically real. So I've decided to redo my image of
Yeah.
myself so that
Are you
I
going to
can
be a
have,
happy purple unicorn?
well, yes, for those of you can't see, we're going to go visual soon. This is my way of announcing this, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, in an effort to lighten my mood and the things I do, I have my virtual image has now become a purple little
Plush.
plushy unicorn with this sparkly pink unicorn horn
Yeah.
in an effort to, but
You all are missing it.
that's me, right? I'm now the nice plushy unicorn with the sparkly pink horn that can, I don't know what the horn can do, but you can believe in that horn.
I know
That's
where you can put
me.
it.
I will rub that magical horn, which is on the top of my head, right?
Yes.
And then I can make all kinds of things happen other than in the Israel-Gaza war.
Yeah, I
Apparently,
don't
that's
know.
already being undertaken by someone else. Ramifications, Ariana.
Ramifications of this? I think
Yeah, yeah. Where
we've,
can you take this? Let's be creative. Pretend I'm Satan and you are Beelzebub, my
well,
first
that's
attendant.
already established.
Yeah, well, but we're the good Satan. All right. So now we're thinking, all right, cool. So we've now managed global society into this kind of this place where we've now curated the relationship between the self and the selfie, that is the physical and the virtual selves, into this symbolic space where belief as opposed to fidelity to actuality, historical actuality, is much more important. So what can we do with this?
I mean, what do you want to do with it? I'm just thinking of how the world is going to change. People
Yeah.
aren't going to leave their homes. New businesses are going to prop up.
Okay,
Um,
so you're thinking like an MBA. That's
to
right. So this
support.
is right. This is a call for making money. So for those of you who are going to a very low level of hell, where you're thinking about this as a business opportunity, and it is, because it's not just a
Because
business
you,
opportunity.
hey, we are Satan, all right? You know,
No, you're Beelzebub. So I'm thinking, okay, fine. So you want to monetize this.
I'm
That makes
Beelzebub.
sense. That's standard Satan 101.
There you
So you're going to
go.
monetize this, and there's all kinds of ways of monetizing this. The software, the image itself, capacity building for image
Delivery
making,
services to
the
people who
delivery
will never
services,
leave their homes.
right? And then cushy and undisclosed deals between you and traditional press organs who may or may not know that they are colluding in this, and they may or may not care. Right,
Yes, data
right,
deals between, sharing, all that good stuff.
right. Now, and all of this would be fabulous. Now, a fly in the ointment is that on the 31st of October, about a year after the Biden administration came out with their a blueprint for AI ethics and governance, the president put out a very long executive order on AI governance, a very, very complicated one. We
I
can
did
talk
not get
about
to
that in
read
the,
that. I did
yeah,
not get
we
to read
can,
it, but I
I
saw it.
did, I have blogged about it, and I'm happy to do a podcast about it, but it's
Of course.
very interesting that shows a perhaps non-Satanesque approach to how to deal with this. For our purposes, because we are kind of drawing to a close here, is that what is clear is that the era of simple solutions, i.e., I hereby command that you not do this anymore, is over.
Yeah.
And the executive order essentially creates a fairly complicated system of multi-institutional efforts that then have to be coordinated on multiple fronts to try to get at all aspects of this thing in ways that will tend to, if not minimize, at least be able to name it control it and identify it. Maybe. The problem, of course, is that, as we know, while humans tend to think in finite moments, we take visual, we're historical creatures that go from instant to instant. The reality of AI is not that, it's a flow. And so
Yes.
by the time the Biden administration, and it really is a heroic effort, and
By the
in
time it
some
gets
ways more
established,
interesting than the European version or the Chinese version. But by the time they get done to solidifying all of this, of course, the
it'll
flow
change.
will have flowed on, right? And then how do you
That's the
develop?
problem.
Well, and then the solution is, of course, you're going to have to use AI in
To
automated
establish
decision
all of
making
these institutions.
and to keep them current. So a lot of
Which is
interesting
actually
things.
great. It's great. I mean, I think that's a great solution, using AI as part of the solution.
Well,
Um,
we've got no choice. And of course, that's the undiscovered territory. To its credit, the Biden administration recognized that you can't fight AI without AI, and you're going to have to be as critical or as sensitive about the use of AI to control AI as you are about anything else.
Absolutely.
So now, whether they can do something about it remains to be seen, but at least to their credit, they did that. And most of this, then, it's easy enough to do this. And the focus has been, certainly since COVID, on text, right? The misinformation, malinformation, fake news and stuff. What Adobe has reminded us, and it's not clear just how sensitive the executive order and subsequent regulation or legislation will be, that it may be that images pose a greater issue, and not just still images, but movies, right, may pose as much or a much more intractable problem than the problem of AI generated text. And with that, my
I think,
imaginary is
well,
depleted.
I feel like we can generate tools to combat the AI generated pictures or photos or whatever. It's just what we were talking about earlier, having to change our perspective and our mindset about how we approach.
Right. And there's going to be a huge mindset. So, for example, if you have a certification program, we've got First Amendment issues. If you have to include some kind of pixelation thing or some kind of
Yeah.
technical thing where it's very clear there's got to be a flaw in this thing when it's an AI enhanced image, there will be, as easy as to code that, it's going to be easy enough to code around that. And so the issue, and then ultimately, whenever you're dealing with this, where you're dealing with suppressing markets or regulating markets in this way, you're always going to have the gray and black markets
Exactly.
that are then going to seep in. And then, so
Fall through
from
the
a
cracks.
regulatory perspective, not, forget the moral and ethical perspective that we talked about. And again, maybe we can devote a podcast to this. From the regulatory perspective, this becomes an issue that is significant enough to suggest that it's going to have to transform the art and practice of rulemaking as much as the thing that is subject to the rules is transforming
Yeah,
our social relations.
absolutely. I mean,
So we're going to
along
look
with
like a very different place.
creating an entirely new marketplace, I mean,
Well, a
the
new sense of law, a new modality of
economy,
law.
yes,
Yeah.
this is going to be entirely different. It's going to look
Right. Right.
completely.
So to our listeners, enjoy your pictures, enjoy going into your holodeck and reveling in the belief systems that these images represent, or not, because nowadays it's going to be hard to tell what it is you're looking at. And welcome to our new world.
Welcome to the new world. Just maybe
Woof,
think
woof,
twice before believing what you see. Bark,
woof, woof.
bark. Thanks a lot, everyone, and we'll catch you next time.